Welcome to a special presentation by Charles. For the record, today is the 10th of July 2012. As you know, Charles is a very good friend of mine, and we were at boarding school together. He is now a chief executive officer of a leading bank and will be explaining the current economic position. I admire Charles because he tells it as it is.
Tony has told me that there have been redundancies within your departments. I am very sorry to hear about that. I truly feel sorry for the staff that have been made redundant, especially at a time when the banking elite are receiving such huge bonuses.
Hang on, I seem to remember that you have said that you were part of the banking elite.
That's correct. However, unlike some of my peers, I do have empathy, and I do understand the corrupt practices that go on behind the scenes. As you know, Tony is a good friend of mine, and that's why I agreed to give the presentation.
I still don't understand why you are giving these presentations. Surely it puts you in a vulnerable position.
To be honest, Steve, I know the game is up. I know that we are witnessing the end of the debt-based monetary system. I have made my millions out of it, and it's only because I am such a good friend of Tony that I agreed to educate his senior management team regarding how the financial system works.
I was having such a great time. I have bought loads of new shoes, got the latest iPhone, and have been down to the pub with my friends to get hammered nearly every night. I got a few credit cards, maxed out on those, and then got payday loans. I cannot pay back my debts, so I guess I will have to go bankrupt.
Tracy, your situation is not uncommon. A culture has been encouraged that caused people to spend beyond their means.
My grandmother told me never to get into debt to buy things that you wanted. She said that you should save up.
She would have lived in an era where there was no easy credit.
I am glad we live in an era where we can get easy credit. The banks have been generous by lending me money. I have bought a new car and have also bought a new 60-inch 3D Panasonic television with a contrast ratio of 1 to 5 million and a frame rate of 600 Hz. It is so much better than the 50-inch TV I bought last year.
You are going to hear some straight talking from me. Some of you will not like it, and I suspect some of you will remain in denial. I learnt from an early age that there are mainly two types of people: those that get taken advantage of, and those that take advantage. It's rather like those nature programs. You are either the prey or the predator. It's cruel, but that is the way it is. I used to play chess. Well, life is rather like a chess game. You have to plan ahead and sacrifice various pieces to protect the king. Consider the pawns on a chessboard as the average person in the street.
Charles, you are painting a very grim picture.
Steve, I deal with facts, not perception. I am driven by logic, not faith. We are entering very dangerous times. We need to prepare for it. I want you to watch the video and listen very carefully to what is being said by Gregory Mannarino.
Hi everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. How you doing today? Alright guys, we're going to cover a few things today, but the premise of this video is very simple. From now through till the end of the year, we are literally forging ahead into a perfect financial storm. There's a lot going on that is not being covered anywhere in the mainstream media. People are being purposely misled. They're not being allowed to understand the gravity of some of these situations.
Did anyone pick up on the key points in that video?
Yes, he said that we are entering a perfect financial storm and that it is not being reported in the mainstream media. He also said that we are being misled regarding the gravity of the situation.
Sue, you have picked up on the main points. A perfect financial storm is upon us.
In Greece the situation is very bad. It is truly desperate. When I was out there I saw the demonstrations and the riots. The people are losing everything and it is getting worse. It seems that if there is no focus on the problem, people think everything is alright.
The caption behind me says it all. We have gone over the cliff, and it is just a matter of time before we fall.
Charles, you are far too pessimistic. I have experienced boom and bust before, this one won't be any different.
Steve, you are suffering from normalcy bias. I know for a fact that Tony has tried to educate you. He has even invited Jennifer, who is an expert on macroeconomics, to give a presentation to the senior management team. After all this, Steve, you are still in denial. What does it take for you to get real?
There's no need to be like that.
Steve, you need telling straight, and that is, the future is going to be so different from the past. Get a grip. I have another clip from Greg.
So there's a situation that's developing right now over the next several months that we understand dollar status disappearing before our eyes. There's going to be an increase in the debt. There's also going to be more quantitative easing. I've been over a few other things lately. Let me just touch on that. I've been over recently how the dollar is in a long-term downward trajectory. Now, for those of you out there that follow the money supply numbers, the M2 numbers, what's going on now is a desperation move by the Fed, and they're not talking about it. What's going on is this, and you can see this in real time. The usdebtclock.org. Check the money supply and the M2 numbers. They're falling. The Fed is attempting to slow the fall of the dollar. It's not going to work. They understand it's going down. I think what they're preparing for is, again, more QE. It's a no-brainer. It has to happen. The world's central banks are going to inflate the money supply to the degree of ridiculousness as we move forward in this. It's going to continue to devalue the currency. It's going to also cause meteoric rises in commodities across the board. People that are holding paper dollars, are in really a lot of trouble. They're going to lose their purchasing power, and without any way to preserve it, and without any way to make it grow.
Any questions on that?
Yes, Greg clearly understands that the debt-based monetary system has run its course.
Exactly, and this now leads me to the main point of the presentation. The current monetary system is a fiat system. Does anyone know what I mean by fiat?
Yes, it is a popular make of car.
Steve, you do make me laugh. Mind you, very few people understand what fiat means. It is actually a Latin word meaning, let it be so. In a nutshell, the dollar is loaned into existence, backed by nothing. Steve, have you heard of the Federal Reserve Bank?
Yes, it's a government central bank in the U.S.
Steve, you are half right. However, it is a private central bank that loans money into existence with interest to the U.S. government. It's a debt-based system. Steve, are you familiar with the history of money?
No. Should I be?
To be honest, very few people are familiar with the history of money. I would guess less than 5%, and that's the way we banking elite like it. We do not want a well-informed, educated public who are capable of critical thinking. Steve, who is your favorite football team?
Manchester United. Wayne Rooney is such a gifted player. He is the focus of our chats down at the pub.
When I am down the pub, I chat to my mates about Big Brother and Pop Idol. We have a great time getting hammered there.
Steve and Racy, reality is going to hit you hard. I am going to be straight with you. You have been dumbed down. You appear to worship celebrities, and from what I have witnessed, you both lack critical thinking. Steve, Manchester United are a multinational corporation who have superb marketing skills. They are able to ramp up your interest and get you to part with vast sums of money to enable players like Wayne Rooney to earn £240,000 a week. That is 480 times the average UK salary. Or put it another way, 3,650 times the amount an Asian worker gets for making an iPhone. The game is rigged. There has always been tensions between the government and the banking elite to control the money supply. Prior to 1913, the banking elite had lost ground regarding the control of the money supply. They created the conditions for a panic on the banks in 1907 that resulted in a bank run. The banking elite met at a secret location on Jekyll Island in November 1910, and that's what hastened the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913. Any questions so far?
Surely a central bank will ensure some sort of stability.
The monetary system was debt-based and operated a fractional reserve banking system that was pegged for most part by the gold standard. The gold standard ensured a sensible fractional reserve ratio, as 1 unit of gold in the vaults had to support 9 units of currency loaned out. 1971 was a very important year. Does anybody know why?
Richard Nixon went on television to say that the dollar would no longer be converted into gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods Agreement. It was only supposed to be a temporary measure, but it has remained in force.
That's correct, Tony. 1971 was the beginning of our problems. Prior to 1971, the gold standard ensured a sensible fractional reserve ratio. There were still boom and busts, but they were more manageable. When the dollar became a fiat currency, the fractional reserve ratio went out of kilter. Credit cards were introduced, there was subprime lending, and a fancy new instrument called derivatives were born. Once the dollar became a fiat currency, it was used as a vehicle to loan out too much money into existence. Our illusion of wealth was made possible by having so much unsustainable debt.
Thank goodness for alternative media. It helps to give a balanced picture of world events. I tend to watch Russian Today. It provides me with a much more rounded picture of what is happening in the world today. I agree with Gregory Mannarino in that the mainstream media are misleading us and not reporting the gravity of the financial situation.
Quite right, Tony, and this leads me to my next point. There are too many corrupt politicians and senior bankers. The game is rigged. Indeed, as we became more mature and well-informed society, we see things for what they really are. We know that there are a number of Catholic priests who abuse young children. We know that politicians fiddle their expenses. We know Rupert Murdoch was too powerful and that the politicians did not challenge him. And we know that the banking elite have fixed the LIBOR rate.
I understand that there will be an inquiry into the fixing of the LIBOR rate.
The Conservative Party wanted a parliamentary inquiry and the Labour Party wanted a judge-led inquiry. The House of Commons voted on the issue and they voted for a parliamentary inquiry.
That was a great mistake. The politicians are too close to the bankers. Also, they don't have the skills to question in depth. A judge-led inquiry should have been agreed. They have the skills to question in detail in a clinical manner and get to the root of the problem.
That's correct. In summary, we are heading for the greatest depression ever. Nothing, and I say again, nothing will prevent it. We either descend into a deflationary spiral, or we debase the currency with quantitative easing, which eventually leads to hyperinflation. I have no doubt that the politicians will elect for quantitative easing.
As soon as I hear that the Federal Reserve Bank announced quantitative easing, I shall buy some more physical gold and silver. Thank you, Charles, for a most informative presentation.